greatest American haunted house story ever told.
I awake in the morning to hear the bulletins on the radio that there had been a mass murder in Amityville, Long Island. Shocker in the community.
One thing that happened, it was a volume of terrifying occurrences.
I could see bodies all lined up, all with white sheets over them.
Devils do exist. Demons do exist. A skeptical public is the best protection that devils have.
I was sitting there with anticipation. What's next?
Ini bukanlah berita biasa, namun benar-benar kisah nyata dari pasangan suami istri yang baru membeli rumah besar dan indah di kawasan elit dengan harga yang murah. Namun ternyata pasangan suami istri ini bersama 3 anak mereka hanya bisa menempatinya selama 28 hari saja. Karena mereka ketakutan akan serangkaian kejadian aneh dan misterius di rumah tersebut. Hingga mereka memutuskan kabur dari rumahnya sendiri. Lalu, apa yang sebenarnya terjadi di dalam rumah yang kini dikenal sebagai rumah paling angker di Amerika dan paling terkenal di dunia ini? Seperti apakah fakta dari kisah kelam dan peristiwa tragis di balik rumah horor tersebut? Kisah nyata ini menginspirasi sebuah buku terlaris dan film terlaris, The Amityville Horror, yang meraup keuntungan hingga $100 juta. Ikutilah kisah nyata ini yang akan kita kupas lebih dalam lagi dalam tayangan dokumenter khas K Channel. Selengkapnya sesaat lagi hanya di YouTube K Channel, membuka jendela dunia. Rumah ini tampak seperti rumah biasanya. Rumah besar di lingkungan elit dengan pemandangan yang indah. Tetapi rumah ini dikenal sebagai rumah paling angker di Amerika.
Montaukans believe there is good and there is evil. The spirit is very movable and it can come and go and do a lot of things.
Sejarah bermula dari pemukim pertama di wilayah tersebut, suku Montaukid Indian. Menurut legenda suku Indian, dulunya tanah yang sekarang ini dikenal sebagai area Ocean Avenue Amityville adalah titik pusat kekuatan. Mungkin daerah yang dipenuhi oleh setan, musuh-musuh Indian, dan orang-orang yang dirasuki oleh roh jahat yang dibiarkan mati di tanah ini. Kemudian dikubur dengan wajah menghadap ke bawah dan dikutuk dengan keadaan seperti itu selamanya. Legenda lainnya juga menceritakan tentang daerah ini dulunya berlangsung pengadilan penyihir pada akhir tahun 1600-an. Seorang pria bernama John Ketchum yang dipaksa keluar dari Massachusetts karena mempraktikkan ilmu sihir. Ia lalu pindah dan mendirikan tempat tinggal di sekitar rumah horor Amityville ini dan melanjutkan penyembahan iblisnya hingga kematiannya. Kemungkinan tubuhnya dikuburkan di suatu tempat di lahan tersebut. Dan ternyata faktanya terdapat akta-akta milik Ketchum. Dan yang paling menarik, terdapat nama jalan Ketchum di sekitar rumah horor Amityville.
Hi, I'm Vinko Poser from Perth, Western Australia. You are watching the famous documentary K Channel from Indonesia.
George Lutz, seorang pria kelahiran 1 Januari 1974 yang tengah bekerja di Boston, tiba-tiba menerima warisan sebuah perusahaan di Long Island milik kakeknya. Sehingga ia harus pindah ke Long Island untuk mengambil alih bisnis keluarganya. Lalu, ia bertemu dengan seorang wanita anggun menawan yang berusia 1 tahun lebih tua darinya. Wanita cantik itu bernama Kathy Connor. Ia adalah janda dengan 3 anak. Ketiga anaknya itu adalah Danny yang berusia 9 tahun, Chris berusia 7 tahun, dan putri cantiknya yang masih berusia 5 tahun, Missy. Tak lama kemudian, George dan Kathy akhirnya menikah. Dan mereka ingin memulai hidup barunya dengan mencari rumah baru untuk mereka tinggal. Lalu seorang agen real estate setempat menawarkan pada mereka sebuah rumah di kawasan paling eksklusif di Amityville dengan lingkungan yang tenang dan nyaman. Rumah itu dibangun pada tahun 1924, namun masih dalam kondisi baik dan terlihat sangat indah. George dan khususnya Kathy benar-benar jatuh cinta dengan rumah tersebut.
We first saw the house in the fall of 1975. Went over with the broker. She said, I wanted to show you what the other half of Amityville lived like.
Pulling up to it, she started to tell us things that the house had as far as the number of bedrooms.
When we walked in the house, Kathy looked around right from the foyer and just started smiling. She really fell in love with the house. It was very obvious. And we walked through, it had 6 bedrooms and a boathouse for our boat and 2-car garage and a heated pool and a basement on the water, which was very rare.
All the things that we talked about, we found in one place. For George and myself, we could bring more things together within this marriage. A new home, space for everybody, space for growth.
Tetapi mereka tidak tahu bahwa rumah tersebut adalah rumah tempat terjadinya peristiwa tragis pembunuhan massal keluarga DeFeo. Kemudian agen real estate itu menceritakannya pada George dan Kathy. Namun George yang merupakan seorang mantan marinir tidak mempercayai tahayul dan ia tidak mudah terpengaruh dengan cerita-cerita rumah berhantu. Lalu George segera mendiskusikan dengan sang istri dan 3 anak tirinya. Dan ternyata mereka semua sangat menyukai rumah tersebut. Apalagi rumah itu dijual dengan harga yang murah untuk sebuah rumah besar di kawasan elit. Dan itu pun sudah termasuk dengan perabotan lengkap di dalamnya. Termasuk semua tempat tidur yang menjadi tempat tewasnya semua korban-korban pembunuhan. Yang selanjutnya, tempat-tempat tidur itu akan digunakan oleh George, Kathy, dan 3 anak-anaknya.
And she explained to us about the DeFeo massacre. I wanted to know if that would change our view on the house at all.
We discussed it among the 5 of us, and there was no problem. It was unfortunate that had happened there. It was reflected in the price, of course, but we weren't superstitious, thinking that there was anything wrong that way.
There was a sign outside the front of the house when we first looked at it. It said High Hopes. And when I look now, those same high hopes were within us.
Menurut paranormal, ada resiko menyimpan dan menggunakan perabotan keluarga yang terbunuh.
When traumatic events happen, sometimes that energy gets trapped within something in the property. Could be the rocks that make up the foundation, could be parts of the wall, could be furniture. And also the spirits could just reside there, could stay there because it happens so instantly that they don't know what happened and they're looking for answers.
Pesona rumah indah yang memukau ini telah menyihir keluarga Lutz untuk membelinya tanpa ada keraguan. Dan pada 18 Desember 1975, keluarga ini pun akhirnya mulai pindah untuk menempati rumah impian mereka. Dan sesuai saran dari sahabat George Lutz yang terkejut bahwa ia telah membeli rumah itu, sahabatnya menyarankan untuk memberkati rumah tersebut saat mereka mulai menempatinya. Dan pada sore harinya, Pendeta Ray datang untuk memberkati rumah mereka. Ketika Pendeta Ray masuk ke salah satu ruangan yang disebut ruangan menjahit, di mana dulunya ruangan ini adalah kamar tidur Mark dan John, kakak beradik yang tewas terbunuh, yang terletak di lantai 2. Pendeta Ray menceritakan pengalamannya yang mengatakan bahwa ruangan itu terasa sangat dingin sekali. Dan ketika ia memercikan air suci di sekitar ruangan itu, tiba-tiba ia mendengar suara parau yang menyuruhnya keluar dari rumah tersebut.
We've worked on numerous investigations that we've been sent in by churches to write up preliminary reports on possessions or demonic type hauntings. And we have had priests from many different religions come in and perform blessings and cleansing of homes. Most of the time it works because it all falls within the person's faith, but sometimes it doesn't.
Seketika itu, Pendeta Ray segera bergegas turun dan menyarankan George dan Kathy agar tidak menggunakan ruangan itu. Lalu ia segera meninggalkan rumah tersebut. Sejak hari pertama keluarga Lott pindah ke rumah barunya, tidak ada kejadian aneh yang mereka alami. Mereka tampak bahagia menikmati aktivitas kesehariannya sebagai keluarga baru. Tetapi George, setiap malamnya, secara berturut-turut, ia selalu terbangun tepat pada pukul 3:15 dini hari.
3:15 in the morning was kind of the witching hour, what they call the devil's hour. The facts stand that the Tefeos were murdered around that time in the morning.
Pada malam keempat, kini Kathy mulai dihantui mimpi buruk yang menggambarkan kejadian mengerikan. Malam tewasnya keluarga DeFeo, sang pemilik rumah sebelumnya. Dalam mimpinya, digambarkan pula anggota keluarga yang tewas sesuai urutannya secara rinci.
There was one that was very vivid and where I experienced where the bullets went in and out of Mrs. DeFeo's body. And I was able to determine who died in what order. And later on, when we met with William Lambert, who was the attorney for Ronald DeFeo, and he confirmed what the police had found. And they had never published where the bullets went in and out of the body.
I would not sleep on my stomach. Everyone else did. None of us ever slept on our stomachs before moving in the house. We later came to believe that's the position the bodies were in.
Dan beberapa hari sejak mereka pindah, hubungan George dan Kathy mulai berubah. Begitupun perlakuan mereka pada anak-anaknya. George dan Kathy mulai memukul anak-anaknya dengan sendok dan menyeretnya di sekitar rumah saat anak-anak mereka mulai tidak disiplin. Seluruh anggota keluarga mulai mengalami perubahan kepribadian. Mereka mudah tersinggung, mudah marah, hingga terjadi perpecahan yang sangat mengganggu. Keanehan-keanehan kini mulai nampak. Saat suatu malam, George menggigil kedinginan, dan tungku perapian yang dinyalakannya sama sekali tidak membuatnya hangat, walau sebanyak apapun kayu-kayu yang telah dibakarnya. Pada pagi hari ini, George dan Kathy yang berada di dapur untuk menyiapkan sarapan tiba-tiba terkejut oleh teriakan anak-anak mereka. Seketika itu juga, dengan begitu panik, George dan Kathy segera menaiki tangga menuju arah teriakan Danny dan Christopher yang berada di dalam kamar mandi. Sesampainya di sana, mereka terkejut melihat toilet di kamar mandinya yang mengeluarkan noda-noda hitam di sekelilingnya. Dan ternyata saat mereka mengecek kamar mandi lainnya, semua toilet kamar mandi di rumah itu sama mengeluarkan cairan noda hitam. Kemudian Kathy mengingat apa yang disarankan Pendeta Ray tentang ruangan jahit. Dengan rasa penasaran, lalu ia segera menuju ke ruang jahit tersebut. Dan ternyata Kathy begitu terkejut. Ia menemukan ribuan lalat ada di ruangan itu di saat musim dingin.
When we first looked at the house, very first time, we noticed no flies anywhere in the house. The longer we were in the house, the more flies there were in that room. I don't have an explanation for how or why, but that's where they were.
Well, I've investigated dozens of cases of paranormal phenomenon, and I've never seen that happen before. I think that it absolutely factors into the violent nature of what happened in that home.
Dan menurut laporan, polisi juga menemukan ribuan lalat ketika mereka pertama kali memeriksa mayat korban pembunuhan di ruangan yang sama. Hari ini adalah hari Natal pertama keluarga Lott di rumah Amityville. Tampaknya keluarga ini bisa melupakan kejadian aneh yang mereka alami dan merayakan hari Natal penuh sukacita bersama keluarga. Namun itu hanyalah sesaat. Pada malam harinya, ketika mereka tidur, George kembali terbangun tepat pada pukul 3:15 dini hari. Kali ini, ia mendengar bunyi pintu yang terbuka, lalu tertutup dengan cukup keras. Lalu ia segera memeriksanya dan pergi keluar rumah untuk mencari tahu apakah mungkin ada penyusup di rumah mereka. Dan tanpa disengaja, George melihat ke jendela kamar Missy. Dan terlihat sesosok bayangan yang bergerak di kamar tersebut. Lantas ia segera berlari masuk ke dalam rumah dan bergegas menuju kamar tidur gadis kecil itu. Saat ia menerobos masuk ke dalam kamar, ternyata tidak ada seorang pun di sana. Hanya ada Missy yang sedang terlelap tidur. Dan itu sungguh membuat George sangat heran dan muncul banyak pertanyaan di benaknya.
I saw eyes looking down at me from Missy's bedroom window when I would be coming back from the boathouse at night. I would run into the house, run upstairs, and there'd be nothing there. There would be times that Missy would be sitting on her bed talking, and you'd walk past, you'd see the rocking chair moving, but Missy was on the bed. There were a couple of times that we saw eyes from the outside looking into the house. There were tracks in the snow that were made by something with a cloven hoof.
Hari berikutnya, Missy sedang bermain di kamarnya. Lalu Kathy mendengar gadis kecilnya itu seperti sedang mengobrol akrab dengan seseorang. Saat ia masuk ke kamar Missy, ternyata Missy sedang sendirian. Tetapi ia melihat kursi goyang yang kosong itu terus bergoyang. Dan Missy mengatakan bahwa ia sekarang memiliki teman baru, seorang malaikat kecil bernama Jody. Dan Missy mengatakan bahwa teman barunya Jody, tubuhnya terkadang sebesar bonekanya, dan terkadang terlihat seperti raksasa. Bagi Missy, ia sama sekali tidak takut pada Jody. Ia justru merasa sangat senang, karena ada yang menemaninya bermain di kamarnya. Di hari ke-9 mereka tinggal di rumah ini, George dan Kathy sudah merasa terganggu atas kejadian-kejadian aneh yang mereka alami.
All homes have sounds that you need to come adjusted to. How the water sounds, the dishwasher in the middle of the night. There's sounds that all homes have. After the love of Christmas came down, that's when the sounds in the house were different. They weren't ones that I wanted to become familiar with. It changed. There wasn't the warm glow anymore. Now there was a blaze. There was a scraping. And there was a banging. The children who had been anticipating a holiday were now anticipating different things that brought a fear on.
Lalu Kathy segera menghubungi kembali Pendeta Ray yang sebelumnya telah memberkati rumah itu saat hari pertama mereka pindah.
Anytime I would attempt that call, that contact, there was limited interference on the phone. There were times when Father Ray would attempt to call us, and the connection again would be broken up with static.
Namun Pendeta Ray menolak untuk kembali datang ke rumah itu lagi. George dan Kathy tidak tahu apa alasannya Pendeta Ray tidak mau lagi datang ke rumahnya. Dalam wawancara Pendeta Ray di stasiun TV di kemudian hari, ia menjelaskan bahwa setelah ia melakukan pemberkatan rumah, saat pertama kali itu, telapak tangannya melepuh. Dan ketika ia pergi ke dokter untuk memeriksanya, dokter tidak mampu menjelaskan apa penyebabnya. Seperti biasa, pada dini hari tepat pukul 3:15, George terbangun.
The significance of threes were it was a blasphemy of the Holy Trinity, of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost, and that things that occur in threes have a religious significance.
Dan kali ini, dia mendengar suara bising yang tak tertahankan. Tetapi anehnya, Kathy sepertinya tidak mendengar kebisingan itu, karena ia tidur sangat lelap. Lalu George segera berjalan menuju ke lantai bawah, dan di sana ia tidak menemukan apapun. Ia juga melihat anjing peliharaannya sedang tertidur lelap bagaikan tak lagi bernyawa. Pada hari ke-11, Kathy menemukan sesuatu yang membuatnya terkejut.
I was down in the basement one afternoon, and there was a particular shelving area that I really wanted to relocate, and it looked like a portable. So I moved it, and much to my surprise, there was a small room behind it, and it was painted a red.
Ruangan kecil merah itu digambarkan seperti jantung dari kegelapan rumah, di mana itu adalah sarang iblis. Dan ketika ruangan itu terbuka, anjing mereka terus menyalak tanpa henti. Tetapi ketika George membawa anjingnya ke ruang bawah tanah menuju ruangan merah itu, anjing mereka menjadi berubah. Ia meringkuk dan menolak untuk mendekati tempat itu. Dengan terbukanya ruang merah di bawah tanah ini, tampaknya memicu serangkaian kejadian baru, fenomena paranormal yang menakutkan. Pada pagi hari, tiba-tiba terdapat zat semacam jeli basah yang lengket di atas lantai yang entah dari mana datangnya. Walaupun mudah dibersihkan, tetapi keesokan paginya jeli berwarna hijau itu akan muncul kembali. Kemudian tiba-tiba cairan seperti epoksi berwarna hitam keluar dari lubang kunci, seperti linangan air mata hitam yang persis sama seperti cairan hitam yang sempat muncul di toilet kamar mandi beberapa hari lalu. George dan Kathy sungguh mulai berpikir keras tentang serangkaian kejadian aneh ini yang tidak bisa dijelaskan. Pada hari ke-18, George yang kurang tidur benar-benar merasa ketakutan. Lalu ia menghubungi sahabatnya yang telah lama dekat sejak mereka kuliah di universitas yang sama, yang juga telah menjadi pendamping pria saat George dan Kathy menikah.
They come over the house one night unexpectedly. There was a knock on the front door, and there was George and Kathy, and they came in. George proceeded to tell us about the house and the strange goings-on in the house. Things like flies at the windows, the temperature of the house used to get very cold, especially mid-morning, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, strange sounds.
Lalu George dan Kathy kembali pulang ke rumah impian mereka di Ocean Avenue 112 Amityville, yang kini telah berubah menjadi rumah yang penuh mimpi buruk dan yang mengecewakan bagi mereka. Bahkan sahabatnya sendiri pun tidak dapat mempercayai apa yang telah diceritakan George tentang kejadian misterius yang mereka alami di rumah itu. Pada hari ini, George sudah bertekad dan memberanikan diri untuk memberkati rumah itu atas saran temannya yang akan dilakukan sendiri oleh George dan Kathy. Mereka berdua membawa Alkitab, berdoa sambil mengitari rumah. Tetapi beberapa saat kemudian, mereka tiba-tiba menghadapi perlawanan yang keras. Mereka mendengar suara yang menyuruhnya berhenti. Dan ini sangat mirip dengan yang dikatakan oleh Pendeta Ray atas apa yang terjadi padanya. Mendengar suara yang menyuruhnya keluar saat memberkati rumah tersebut.
This, of course, is very comparable to what Father Ray claims happened to him, hearing a voice telling him to get out. They were trying to do anything they could to steer the ship the other way, the best they knew how, and apparently things were not going their way.
George kembali terbangun pada pukul 3:15 dini hari seperti biasanya. Dan pada saat ini bertepatan dengan adanya badai yang terjadi di luar rumah. Namun ada sesuatu yang tidak beres ketika ia hendak beranjak bangun dari tempat tidurnya. Ia menyadari bahwa ia sulit bergerak. Sekuat apapun ia mencobanya, seperti seluruh anggota tubuhnya terkunci. Kemudian ia mendengar suara keras yang memegahkan telinga datang dari kamar tidur anak tirinya. Suara itu berupa benturan yang sangat keras, seperti tempat tidur yang terbanting ke atas dan ke bawah.
Danny Lutz told me about his bed levitating and hitting the ceiling and bouncing back and forth. That both he and Christopher's beds were doing this.
Lalu George berusaha keras bergerak perlahan berbalik ke arah Kathy untuk meminta bantuan. Namun ternyata Kathy tidak ada di sebelahnya. Ia melihat tubuh Kathy melayang di atas tempat tidur.
Kathy levitated up off of the bed and slowly began to go towards the wall, to move towards the wall away from him. He could not move. He was trying to scream and he couldn't.
And that was my reflection in the mirror. My hair had turned color. It was a gray-white. My face was severely wrinkled.
George terus berusaha bergerak dan berteriak, namun ia masih saja tidak bisa. Kemudian George merasakan kehadiran seseorang di ujung tempat tidurnya dan berbaring di kasurnya.
He said it was like a hooved figure, according to George.
There were shadows that were moving outside the door up and down the hallway. And still he can't get up out of bed. At one point he said that he made two distinct sounds. There was one that he described as a low, moaning, wailing sound that came from the core of him, just a scream that erupted out of his body.
George bertarung dengan seluruh jiwanya untuk mematahkan belenggu dari energi jahat tersebut. Dan entah bagaimana, dia berhasil menarik Kathy kembali ke tempat tidur. Dan kelumpuhan yang ia rasakan kini menghilang. Tapi aktivitas paranormal tiada hentinya menyerang. Saat badai terus mengamuk di luar rumah, pintu depan terbanting berulang kali. Anjing melolong ketakutan. Tapi kemudian tiba-tiba menjadi sunyi dan secara perlahan semua kembali normal.
When you're dealing with possible negative type entities, coming in and doing a religious provocation can sometimes push these things out, but sometimes really anger the things that are there, and then they really want to make their presence known.
George dan Kathy kembali menghubungi Pendeta Ray Peccaro. Namun Pendeta Ray hanya berkata bahwa mereka harus meninggalkan rumah itu. Tetapi rupanya ada sesuatu hal yang menahan mereka untuk tidak pergi dari rumah itu.
These entities that are present are trying to hold the family there because the longer they're there, the stronger these things are able to be.
Its goal is to just destroy the family. I think that what happened there to the Lutzes, that the end result was it wanted them just like it got the DeFeos.
Dengan berat hati dan penuh keraguan, mereka segera membereskan pakaian dan barang-barang mereka ke dalam koper. Dan pada pukul 4 sore, mereka sekeluarga akhirnya pergi dari rumah itu menuju ke rumah ibu Kathy. Dan saat mobil van mereka meninggalkan rumah itu, di sepanjang jalan menuju keluar dari Amityville, mereka mendengar suara benturan-benturan di dalam mobil van tersebut yang berlangsung beberapa kali. Untuk sobat semua, sebelum lanjut ada baiknya untuk mengklik terlebih dahulu tombol like, share, dan subscribe, serta tombol notifikasinya, agar tak ketinggalan update kisah nyata tak biasa dari K-Channel selanjutnya. Sekitar tahun 1924, rumah di Ocean Avenue 112 ini dibangun untuk John Maynehan dan keluarganya. Pada musim panas tahun 1965, rumah di Ocean Avenue 112 dijual pada keluarga DeFeo yang awalnya mereka tinggal di apartemen kecil di Brooklyn. Seiring dengan kemajuan usahanya sebagai pemilik dealer mobil untuk membesarkan kelima anak-anaknya. Lalu mereka memutuskan untuk membeli rumah yang lebih besar untuk keluarganya tinggal. Amityville, New York, terletak 1 jam di sebelah timur Manhattan. Itu adalah daerah pinggiran kota kelas atas di pantai selatan Long Island. Kawasan Amityville memiliki reputasi untuk rumah-rumah yang berharga mahal, sekolah yang bagus, dan lingkungan yang nyaman dan aman.
Will Rogers lived here. Annie Oakley was here. Goddard, the great space flight engineer, shot off the first rocket here. Even George Washington spent a day here supping, as he said in his diary, as he completed his tour of Long Island.
Namun semua itu berubah ketika kabar kejahatan mengerikan terjadi di Ocean Avenue 112, Amityville, yang mengejutkan masyarakat. Hari ini masyarakat dikejutkan oleh berita di radio dan televisi yang mengabarkan 6 anggota keluarga ditemukan tewas di rumah mewahnya di Amityville.
I awake in the morning to hear the bulletins on the radio that there had been a mass murder in Amityville, Long Island. Shocker in the community. When police arrived, they found the bodies all in the same position, lying on their stomach.
The mother was shot in the head, the father was shot in the back. The entire family had been killed in the middle of the night, and no one had been able to explain how this happened.
It was odd that the entire family was face down. Nobody tried to escape. Nobody tried to crawl under a bed. That's the one single thing of this murder that nobody can quite put together.
Polisi mengatakan bahwa korban telah diidentifikasi sebagai anggota keluarga DeFeo. Mereka ditemukan oleh putra pertamanya yang berusia 23 tahun, yang menjadi satu-satunya anggota keluarga yang masih hidup.
He came, he opened the door and he was screaming, "Come on, help me. Somebody shot my mother and father." Everyone ran out of the barn. That was it.
My friend Al Saxon comes in and he said, "Rubus, I got something to tell you. You're not going to believe this." He says, "Everybody next door is dead."
We saw several of the bodies being taken out. I'm sorry to say one of the children's bodies fell off the tarp they were carrying it in, and I saw one of the murdered children.
It was ghastly, but pretty straightforward murder case. At least that's what I thought at the time.
Dan polisi mulai fokus pada Ronald DeFeo. Mereka lalu meminjam rumah Rufus Island yang berada tepat di sebelah rumah terjadinya pembunuhan ini untuk memudahkan penyelidikan. Setelah interogasi singkat, akhirnya secara resmi Ronnie ditetapkan sebagai tersangka setelah ia mengakui kejahatannya.
From the beginning, Butch DeFeo, Ronnie DeFeo Jr., was suspected. He was originally not arrested. He was taken into protective custody.
They decided now they're going to take the Ireland's house, which was next door, and turn that into their command post. So they took us all over there.
Next thing I know, they had him in my house and they were questioning him.
That went on for some time until his grandfather showed up. A police officer heard Ronnie's grandfather tell him, "You'll stop throwing the family name in the mud. I don't want to hear anything more about your sister. Just admit to the murders. It's over."
I told them in the beginning things that were true, but, you know, they get the pressure off of me.
Namun hal yang mengherankan dan menjadi tanda tanya semua orang, dari sekitar 9 tembakan yang dilepaskan pada tengah malam pukul 3:15 dini hari di lingkungan yang tenang dan sunyi ini, tidak ada seorang pun dari tetangga dekat rumah itu yang mendengar suara tembakan.
What was so odd is how you managed to shoot 6 people in in the middle of the night in a quiet neighborhood without awakening any of the people. A shotgun blast is pretty loud. That doesn't make any sense.
Sekitar 300 orang berkumpul di luar gereja untuk memberikan penghormatan saat upacara pemakaman diadakan untuk para korban. Jenazah disemayamkan di pemakaman St. Charles. Lalu, mengapa Ronnie begitu tega mengakhiri hidup ayahnya, ibunya, 2 adik perempuannya, dan 2 adik laki-lakinya malam itu? Apa yang mendorongnya merenggut nyawa seluruh keluarganya sendiri? Ronald Joseph DeVio Jr. atau dikenal sebagai Ronnie, lahir pada 26 September 1951 di Brooklyn, New York, Amerika Serikat. Ia adalah putra pertama dari pasangan suami istri asal Italia, yakni Ronald DeVio yang berusia 43 tahun saat ia ditemukan tewas, dan Louis DeVio berusia 42 tahun. Ronnie memiliki 4 adik, yakni Don yang saat ia ditemukan tewas berusia 18 tahun, Allison berusia 13 tahun, Mark berusia 11 tahun, dan Johannes Matthew berusia 9 tahun. Keluarganya terlihat sangat religius yang diperlihatkannya dengan terdapat banyaknya artefak keagamaan di seluruh bagian luar rumahnya. Tetapi di dalam rumah, keluarga ini selalu ada pertengkaran yang terjadi secara terus-menerus setiap kali sang ayah berada di rumah. Teriakan dan jeritan seperti aktivitas normal di rumah ini.
The family life at the DeFeo residence was kind of bizarre and unusual because on one hand they appeared to be very religious artifacts throughout the house, but inside when Mr. DeFeo was there, way beyond fighting the families, bickering, yelling, screaming, activities that would go way beyond normal fighting that families may have.
There were beatings that often would occur for no particular reason, from what I understand. The father would just fall into these terrible rages, and Ronald often became the focus of those rages.
Ronnie's friends were afraid to come into the house because they were just afraid of the father. There was testimony about the father, the wife, and the presence of Ronnie's friends. Many people told me about the abuse he received as a child from his father. On the other hand, I was also told about the great love he received from his mother.
I think she adored him as far as I'm concerned. You know, she always said, "That's my son." You know, like her pride and joy.
Ronnie had a close relationship with his mother. His relationship with his father was a love-hate relationship.
It would be nothing for his father to give him, you know, $1,000 for him to spend. He never really had to work. He had a lot of jobs that he lost. He wound up working in a car agency for the father, but he didn't have to. I think they thought that money would make the difference. Look how wonderful our life is. But it's not very wonderful.
Frustasi dengan keadaan di rumahnya, akhirnya Ronnie banyak memendamkan dirinya dalam penggunaan barang-barang haram. Walaupun harganya cukup mahal, tetapi tidak sulit bagi Ronnie untuk mendapatkannya, karena sang ayah sering memberinya uang yang cukup banyak, hingga ia menjadi pengguna berat, dan ia juga banyak menghabiskan waktunya untuk minum-minum di bar.
He was into heroin. He was big into speed. He would take LSD. So I think he was a very heavy user, and he probably started very early.
Ronnie was, put it this way, a wild teenager.
He had a reputation for using drugs, for violence, for fighting with his father.
He was a punk. All they did was drink, gamble, and fight.
So the father felt that was the wonderful miracle. His son didn't kill.
Ronnie juga telah mencoba kabur dari rumahnya berulang kali. Tetapi berulang kali pula ayahnya selalu mencarinya dan berhasil membawanya kembali pulang.
That Mr. DeFeo used all his resources, all his connections, to go out searching for his son each time and dragged him back to the home. This was just helping the volcano become more violent within Ronnie.
Dan suasana di rumah juga tidak pernah berubah. Selalu saja ada pertengkaran setiap harinya.
Ronnie's mother was downstairs doing laundry, but the kids were making a tremendous fuss. And she was yelling at the kids were yelling, and the father kept yelling at her to shut up. He wanted to eat his meal in peace. And she comes up the stairs with a basket of laundry. And the father walks over to the stairs and punches her in the face. She falls down the stairs. She closes the door and he says, "Now we'll have some peace. We can eat in peace." And that scene, for me, summed up what life must have been like in that house.
Hingga suatu hari, Ronnie dan ayahnya terlibat pertengkaran hebat beberapa hari sebelum peristiwa tragis itu terjadi.
Just days before the murders, he and his father had an argument where his father referred to him as a devil. It came close to blows. Ronnie stormed out. And you know, to say, if I don't get out of here, I'm going to kill all of you. And he did.
Suatu malam, Ronnie sedang duduk santai di ruang TV, menonton film perang Castle Key. Tiba-tiba, ia seperti mendengar suara pembicaraan keluarganya yang bersekongkol untuk melenyapkannya. Ronnie yang saat itu di bawah pengaruh barang haram, tiba-tiba melihat seorang wanita berkerudung hitam dan memakai sarung tangan, sedang membawa senapan berjalan menuju ke arahnya dan memberikan senapan itu padanya. Lalu menyuruhnya untuk mengakhiri hidup seluruh keluarganya.
Ronnie claimed that he was in the basement of the house. A figure appeared to him and had presented him the weapon and told him to go commit these crimes.
Tanpa ia sadari, ia menuruti apa yang dikatakannya, dan ia mulai berjalan ditemani wanita berkerudung itu menuju ke kamar utama, yakni kamar tidur kedua orang tuanya yang tengah tidur lelap.
He went into another room, got his two younger brothers. Then he went in his younger sister, and then he went upstairs, got his older sister's door.
Setelah Ronnie menjadi terdakwa, ia menegaskan bahwa dirinya tidak bersalah, tetapi setan yang ada di dalam rumah itu yang melakukannya.
Ronald DeFeo testifies in court that he heard voices telling him to commit the murder, that he saw a shadowy figure, a black apparition, put the rifle in his hands that night and moved room to room with him while he committed these murders.
During the course of my trial, some priest that I don't know who his name was, or whatever, was in the courtroom watching my performance on the witness stand. He felt that my performance, I had to be possessed by the devil.
The pictures that they showed of the bodies, he shot them at point blank range. So these pictures, you have to understand, were very, very gruesome. One brother, he had had a football injury. He shot him in the back and the spine. And Ronnie talked about how he stood there watching while his brother's leg twitched.
Sejak awal kepindahan keluarga DeFeo ke rumah ini, Ronnie merasa bahwa mereka tidak tinggal sendiri. Ronnie mulai mendengar suara-suara dari berbagai hal di malam hari, seperti kebisingan-kebisingan benturan pipa-pipa, orang yang berjalan di atas pipa.
Ronald DeFeo said that there were ghosts in the house. He said that there were devils on his back and that something was wrong with the house.
Dan rupanya, beberapa lama kemudian, anggota keluarga lainnya merasakan hal yang aneh di rumah itu, termasuk ayahnya. Mereka mengira ada hantu di rumahnya. Sang ayah pun segera meminta bantuan ke gereja.
Mr. DeFeo went to St. Joseph Shrine 6 months before he was
to bring back a priest who would say the prayers of exorcism in his home. And from all the information I learned, candles were toppling off. Doors were opening and closing. I asked Mr. DeFeo why he had all these special holy statues around his home. He said, it's because I have a devil on my back.
Namun selama persidangan tertutup yang telah dimulai sejak 14 Februari 1975, seorang ahli kriminolog berpendapat bahwa Ronnie mungkin tidak bertindak sendirian, bahwa beberapa mayat telah dipindahkan, bahwa tidak semuanya terbunuh di posisi mereka ditemukan. Kriminolog juga mengatakan bahwa senjata yang digunakan tidak hanya satu senapan berkekuatan tinggi, di mana di beberapa tahun kemudian, jurnalis Rick Moran dihubungi penegak hukum yang mengatakan bahwa pada saat malam kejadian, ia melihat adik perempuan Ronnie, John, meninggalkan rumah mengenakan jaket hitam dan sarung tangan, keluar rumah membawa senapan menuju ke dalam mobil dan pergi menuju ke daerah dermaga untuk membuang senapan. Dan polisi penyelam berhasil menemukan senapan tersebut di dermaga. Hingga muncul teori bahwa Ronnie dan adiknya John telah merencanakan untuk mengakhiri hidup kedua orang tuanya mereka bersama-sama, agar kakak beradik ini dapat leluasa meneruskan hubungan istimewa yang terlarang tanpa ada yang menghalangi.
Indeed, something special existed between Ronald DeFeo and he woke up. When there is notice from other cases, because the electromagnetic field, which is representative of an entity of this kind, does interfere with the perception of sound, and sound was not heard.
Pengacara Ronnie meminta bantuan psikiater untuk memeriksa Ronnie, lalu mengajukan pembelaan bahwa Ronnie DeFeo menderita penyakit jiwa.
Ronald's lawyer tried to come out with multiple defenses. Ronald had claimed at one point that the mob his family, and then was claiming that he was hearing demons' voices that were telling him to do it. The stories just kept changing over and over again.
Pada 21 November 1975, pengadilan memutuskan bahwa Ronnie bersalah atas 6 pembunuhan, dan pada tanggal 4 Desember 1975, ia dijatuhi hukuman seumur hidup. Setelah Ronnie berada di penjara untuk menjalani hukumannya, kemudian rumah itu dijual dengan harga murah karena sejarahnya yang mengerikan. Lalu sekitar 1 tahun kemudian, rumah itu dibeli oleh George dan Kathy.
The families that I found that resided in that dwelling place appeared to have a calamity within each one. There were problems for each family.
I will never be able to set aside what had gone on that night, all night, and the boys, where they looked and what they said when they came down that morning.
We left the house because the house became uninhabitable. As far as we were concerned, there was no reason to stay there anymore. There were too many things happening too often and confronting us constantly. But I think that whatever was there was very intelligent, very impatient. I think its abilities are far more powerful than we really understand. I think you know evil from experiencing it.
I would say it was demonic. It took a dream and it shattered.
Setelah keluarga Lutz pergi meninggalkan rumah itu, George mengambil langkah untuk menyelidiki rumahnya. Ia menghubungi seorang pria bernama Kaplan. Tetapi karena ada ketidaksepahaman antara mereka, akhirnya George membatalkan penyelidikan yang melibatkan Kaplan. Setelah beberapa hari rumah itu kosong, George lalu menghubungi para ahli paranormal dan berharap ia dapat menemukan seseorang yang dapat memperbaiki rumah itu. Dia lalu menghubungi Jerry Sullivan, seorang parapsikolog di Cycle Research Foundation, North Carolina, yang terletak 500 mil selatan Amityville.
And George Lutz called me at the Psychical Research Foundation. He was having some experiences in his house that he wanted to tell me about. That was my first alert to the fact that there was something unusual happening there.
Setelah mendengar ceritanya, Jerry setuju untuk mengirim tim reporter lapangan ke Amityville untuk melakukan investigasi awal. Tetapi bagi George, para psikolog itu bergerak terlalu lamban. Kemudian teman-teman George berinisiatif untuk menghubungi William Weber, seorang pengacara yang membela Ronald DeVio Jr.
And they wanted to know if I had any evidence during the trial or during my investigation that could help them. I didn't believe 90% of what they were saying, but admittedly I was interested in writing a book.
William Weber had said, we can really expand on the story, exaggerate it to get more people interested.
Hari ini, George dan Kathy muncul dalam konferensi pers dengan William Weber. Mereka menceritakan kisah mengerikan mereka pada wartawan. Dan semenjak saat itu, cerita mengerikan rumah Amityville mulai terkuak dan menjadi berita menghebohkan yang tidak hanya diberitakan oleh media lokal tetapi oleh seluruh media massa. Tetapi kemudian, seiring berita ini menjadi bahan pembicaraan hangat di kalangan masyarakat, hubungan keluarga Lutz dan pengacara William Weber berakhir ketika sang pengacara meminta mereka untuk menandatangani kontrak untuk menyerahkan kendali atas cerita mereka secara faktual. Dan jika tidak, sang pengacara akan mengambil alih rumah tersebut. Perjanjian penggelikan itu telah membuat keluarga Lutz sangat tidak nyaman. Lalu seorang reporter muda dari berita TV Channel 5, New York, berhasil menghubungi George. Reporter cantik itu adalah Laura DiDio.
At the time, I'm an aspiring reporter. I just wanted to be Lois Lane, Brenda Starr, Lana Lang. I said, wow, this would be a great story for the TV station.
Ia mengatakan pada George bahwa ia tahu dan kenal banyak para ahli dalam menyelidiki aktivitas paranormal dan mereka ingin membantu George dan Kathy. George dan Kathy setuju untuk bertemu dengan Laura dan mereka menceritakan semua kejadian yang mereka alami selama 5 jam pada Laura. Lalu Laura mengatakan bahwa George dan Kathy tampak sangat meyakinkan dan terlihat ketakutan dan itu bukanlah acting.
One of the things that struck me about their story is they seemed genuinely frightened and genuinely moved by whatever had happened to them in this house.
Dalam pembicaraan mereka, George Lutz setuju atas usulan Laura untuk melakukan investigasi eksklusif yang akan difilmkan dalam Channel 5. Laura kemudian segera menghubungi Ed dan Lorraine Warren. Mereka adalah pasangan yang menjadi pelopor sejati dalam studi paranormal. Mereka telah menyelidiki lebih dari 10.000 kasus selama karir mereka. Dan mereka telah memiliki museum sendiri yang berisi koleksi barang-barang yang diklaim memiliki kekuatan energi negatif yang telah mereka temukan. Dan nama Ed dan Lorraine Warren ini tidak asing di telinga kita saat ini karena menjadi tokoh dalam film horor terlaris, The Conjuring.
The type of work that we do is investigation into the paranormal, the supernatural, the preternatural, from haunting phenomena caused by human spirits or through poltergeist activity.
So we arranged for Ed and Lorraine Warren to come down the next day. By the way, I should say up front, Ed and Lorraine never asked for any money. All they said was, can you pay for our gas and toll?
Kemudian pasangan Warren ini memulai penyelidikan. Mereka bertemu dengan George dan Kathy untuk melakukan wawancara informal di rumah ibu Kathy. Pada hari ini, Ed, Lorraine, Laura, dan kru TV Channel 5 tiba di rumah Amityville dan bertemu George yang sedang berada di depan rumah tersebut. Ketika tim penyelidik masuk ke rumah tersebut, George hanya memberikan kunci rumahnya. Ia menolak ajakan mereka untuk masuk ke dalam rumah itu. Ia mengatakan bahwa ia tidak akan lagi mau kembali ke dalam rumah tersebut.
Now this was not the Amityville horror case at that time, you understand? This was just another haunted house. So we said, sure, we'd come down there, and we did. And that was the beginning of an adventure which we'll never forget, a supernatural adventure.
It was not even 3 weeks after George and Kathy fled that we actually entered the house for the very first time.
Well, when we go into such a home as Amityville, and remember, it was not the Amityville horror, then it was just another haunted house.
The overwhelming impression as I entered the foyer of that beautiful home the first time was sadness and depression. That I was in a home where horrible tragedy had occurred.
Mereka lalu mencoba berkeliling melihat seisi rumah, dari satu ruangan ke ruangan lainnya. Dan Lorraine merasa sakit kepala saat dia berada di bagian-bagian tertentu. Kala Lorraine menaiki tangga, ia mengatakan seperti berjalan melawan air terjun, yang berarti ada sebuah kekuatan yang sangat kuat di sana. Dan ketika Lorraine masuk ke kamar tidur utama, ia mulai merasakan sakit, hingga ia butuh waktu sejenak untuk beristirahat. Sementara Ed, ia pergi memeriksa ke ruang bawah tanah.
It's my custom to go down into the cellar, the lowest part of the house. These are usually the darkest areas. This is where evil thrives. This is where it survives. It hates God's light. I understood and knew right at that point that what we were dealing with was no ghost. This was no ordinary haunted house. This, on a scale of 1 to 10, was a 10.
They asked me at one point to see if we should hold a seance. I was a little bit leery about doing that. I felt I was putting myself in jeopardy.
She did not think that it was the ghost of the DeFeos. That sort of surprised me. She thought that there was a demonic, diabolical presence. So it was decided that the Warrens would arrange a seance and that we would reconvene in a week or 2.
Bagi pasangan Warren, ini adalah pengalaman pertama mereka menemukan kekuatan jahat yang begitu kuat, dan mereka tahu bahwa mereka tidak bisa menghadapinya berdua saja. Mereka butuh bantuan. Tim penyelidik hari ini kembali berkumpul bersama kru TV. Namun kini jumlahnya lebih banyak. Secara keseluruhan sebanyak 20 orang yang ikut serta. Itu karena George menghubungi para psikolog dan paranormal lainnya untuk membantu dalam ritual pemanggilan arwah ini. Tetapi sekali lagi, George Lutz menolak masuk ke dalam rumah. Dan salah satu orang pertama yang datang ke rumah ini adalah para psikolog, yakni Jerry Solvin.
It's common these days in 2020 to find Ghostbusters who go out and conduct this so-called study of ghosts and hauntings. Their goal is very different than our goal back at the Psychical Research Foundation. The goal of Ghostbusters seems to establish that they absolutely have something that's paranormal. In parapsychology, that's the beginning of the game. A parapsychologist is, number one, a scientist that is trained in scientific methodology, who does studies of paranormal activities. However, we often get phone calls from people who would say, I have a ghost in my house. And of course that would be of interest.
Dan kali ini, pembawa berita TV terkenal Marvin Scott juga turut hadir.
My news director came to me and said, you're going to this house in Amityville after you anchored the news on Saturday night. I was skeptical, of course, but I was hoping to get an interview with a ghost or something. I hope to see something that night.
Ritual pemanggilan arwah ini akan dilaksanakan di meja makan yang terletak di lantai 1. Dikatakan bahwa berkomunikasi dengan roh orang yang sudah meninggal adalah praktik kuno. Sementara pemanggilan arwah adalah penemuan yang relatif baru yang dipopulerkan pada abad ke-19 oleh gerakan spiritualis. Pemanggilan arwah adalah jenis investigasi yang berbahaya. Pada tengah malam, pemanggilan arwah ini dimulai. Mary Pasquarella dan Alberta Riley menjadi medium dalam ritual ini. Selama melakukan pemanggilan arwah atau seance ini, banyak aktivitas paranormal yang terjadi dan berbeda-beda yang dialami oleh masing-masing dalam tim ini. Bagi paranormal, mereka sangat merasakan kehadiran banyak sosok atau entitas yang berkeliaran di rumah ini.
I was sitting there with anticipation. What's next?
It's whatever's here. Whatever is here.
Trying to harm them?
Yes, and it's something that comes at you and makes your heart speed up, that kind of thing.
Type of a feeling throughout the whole house. You knew that this house was infested by something other than human spirits. That's for sure. That was more than obvious. I could see bodies lined up, all with white sheets over them.
I got the impression of like hooded figures like monks right outside the door, closing the door well, looking in at me. I thought, uh-oh. So I took the holy water and I opened it and I said, "Get thee behind me, Satan." And I went like that. And you could hear like water on a hot stove go. And then everything in the house stopped. There was a window above me and I saw a face of a young girl looking out at me.
Salah satu kru berita TV Channel 5 juga memiliki pengalamannya sendiri yang menakutkan.
What was most vivid to me was Steve Petropoulos, our cameraman, who was about 40 years old. He was very fit. He used to run marathons, as I recall. He started up the stairs with his light meter to get the sort of lay of the land and check out the rooms. And he got about 5 steps up and he turned around and he said to me, "There's a room at the top of the stairs. It's the second door to the right. And one wall in that room is all filled with mirrors." And he says, "And I don't know how I know that." Now bear in mind, at that point there had not been a lot of pictures of the inside of the house published.
Ketika kameramen itu melanjutkan berjalan di tangga menuju ke atas, tiba-tiba ia membungkuk dan meraung kesakitan sambil memegang dadanya. Wajahnya pucat dan berkerut, hingga beberapa orang menghampirinya dan membantunya untuk membawa ke tempat lain dan beristirahat.
On the second floor, in the doorway of one room, there is the distinct figure of a little boy peering out from the doorway. There were no children in the house that night. So it's like, okay, where did this come from?
And we called Missy and asked her, who was this? And she said, "Oh, that's the boy I used to play with there." The first we had heard of him.
Sementara Lorraine dan pembawa acara berita Marvin Scott beserta kru TV segera memasuki ruangan jahit tepat pada pukul 3:15 dini hari. Lorraine mengatakan bahwa ruangan itu adalah ruangan dengan kekuatan terkuat berada. Ruangan itu sangat mengerikan, seperti membawanya ke dekat neraka. Dan Lorraine tidak bisa lagi melanjutkan menuju ke lantai 3, karena secara tiba-tiba ingatannya kabur. Seiring dengan matahari mulai terbit dan penyelidikan pun berakhir.
During the course of the seance, one of the psychics became ill and left the room. Another complained of a pounding heart. Personally, I felt a slight chill in the back of my neck.
It was a dangerous, dangerous night during that period of time. Yes, it was very intense that night.
Terkait dengan hasil penyelidikan rumah tersebut, Lorraine mengatakan bahwa ia tidak tahu apa yang harus dilakukan untuk membersihkan rumah tersebut dari gangguan energi negatif yang menguasai rumahnya.
They were under the impression that there were many malevolent spirits throughout the property that were creating this situation that the Lutz family had been dealing with.
Ed and Lorraine Warren told them, we can't fix this. We don't know what to do with this house. This house is the most evil house in America. What do you do with that?
George dan Kathy sungguh sangat kecewa. Mereka tidak dapat menempati rumah mereka lagi karena ketakutan. Tetapi mereka harus terus membayar cicilan setiap bulannya selama beberapa bulan ini, yang akhirnya tidak ada jalan lain lagi selain mengembalikan rumah itu lagi ke bank. Lalu George meminta teman-temannya untuk membawakan beberapa barang penting di dalam rumah itu, seperti mengambil catatan medis anak-anak. Teman-teman George yang tidak percaya dengan cerita-cerita rumah berhantu itu kemudian mengambil apa yang diminta oleh George, dan sejenak mereka meluangkan waktu duduk santai sambil minum bir di rumah itu. Namun ada hal yang aneh yang mereka alami.
We had a beer, sat on the steps inside the house, even though we were told not to eat or drink anything in the house. I don't know where the cake came from. Somebody had a piece of birthday cake.
George, Kathy, dan 3 anak mereka akhirnya pergi meninggalkan kota itu. Mereka mencoba memulai kehidupan barunya dengan pindah ke California. Beberapa bulan setelah keluarga Lutz pergi dan pindah ke California, rumah di Amityville ini masih kosong. Kemudian seorang parapsikologi dan seorang penulis yang terkenal di dunia yang telah menulis 50 buku mengenai poltergeist kini muncul di rumah ini untuk menguji teorinya sendiri tentang pembunuhan keluarga DeFeo. Ia lalu menyewa reporter Channel 5, Laura Didio, untuk membantu penelitiannya.
Hans contacted me November, December, and he says, I'm going to do a book about this. Can you help me research it? And by the way, I want to take Ethel Johnson out to the house. That was the trance medium he worked with. And we'll do our own investigation.
Ethel Johnson, wanita terkenal yang berusia 70-an ini akan menjadi medium untuk berkomunikasi dengan dunia lain. Seperti biasa, segala kegiatan penelitian ini akan direkam dengan kamera, tetapi kamera itu tiba-tiba membeku dan tidak dapat digunakan. Tetapi Profesor Hans tetap melanjutkan penyelidikannya.
It's not a haunted house per se. It is a relationship between a very angry spirit and someone to whom you can speak.
After a while, this lady began talking in a strange, gibberish language.
Her voice dropped several octaves.
And she was talking with an Indian chief who was buried on that land.
I particularly like this picture that clearly shows a white outlines of a horse overimposed over me. Now it so happens that the entity in the house that was disturbed was an Indian chief on a horse.
Sebelum penelitiannya ini, Profesor Hans mempelajari seperti apa sejarah dari Amityville ini.
It so happened that I found out further that in 1905 a skeleton was partially washed out by a rainstorm, and this skeleton had the skull of the skeleton was broken off by a young fellow, a child, and from that moment on, phenomena started to happen to the house.
One must remember that over 300 years or 400 years, the erosion that has taken place has caused the water to shift its table and either rise or fall. So a lot of our burials are underwater. So would the spirit be in water? Absolutely.
Sementara George dan Kathy Lutz masih menjadi perhatian. Serangkaian kejadian aneh yang mereka alami dituangkan dalam sebuah buku berjudul The Amityville Horror, A True Story. Buku itu ditulis oleh Jay Anson dan langsung menjadi buku terlaris sejak buku ini diluncurkan. Rumah Amityville ini pun menjadi semakin viral di tengah masyarakat, yang kemudian diangkat menjadi sebuah film pada tahun 1979. Filmnya pun menjadi film terlaris yang memecahkan rekor box office. Biaya pembuatan film yang memakan biaya $3 juta ini mampu menghasilkan keuntungan sebesar $100 juta. Sejak saat itu, nama George dan Kathy meroket menjadi bintang dan menjadi bintang tamu yang paling ditunggu di berbagai acara talk show di televisi.
George and Kathleen Lutz are with us this morning to talk about what happened during those 28 days in Amityville.
Within a week, Kathy's hand had been touched by something that we discussed and couldn't explain. It was just something unseen.
We also had hordes of flies that would appear within 2 rooms. And no matter how many times we would kill them, they would reappear. One thing that happened, it was a volume of terrifying occurrences.
Begitupun dengan rumah Amityville yang semakin terkenal dan mengundang penasaran masyarakat. Mereka berbondong-bondong untuk datang dan melihat sendiri rumah Amityville.
Do you believe that all that really happened here?
Yeah, I believe it. I believe in the devil.
And why did you come by tonight to look at this house?
We just specifically came from Chicago to see it.
Do you believe all the stories?
Yeah, I do.
Di tengah viralnya rumah horor Amityville, tidak lantas semua orang mempercayainya bahwa telah terjadi serangkaian kejadian misterius tentang entitas yang mengganggu. Sebagian percaya bahwa kisah itu ada yang dibumbui, dan sebagian kecil menganggap bahwa itu hanyalah tipuan.
What it did was open my eyes to the fact that somebody could write a book, put right on the front cover a true story, and then make up 90% of what was inside.
I spoke to Jay, and I said, Jay, do you believe this story? And he said, I'm a writer. That's what I do, is I write. That's all. You know, whether or not it's true or whether it's not true, that's for somebody else to decide.
My husband Stephen first became involved in the Amityville case when he got a call from George Lutz saying that he would like Steve to come and investigate the house.
And I said to George Lutz at the time, I'm going to investigate. My fee is 0. Because if you're lying, I'm going to verbally rip you apart. But Lord, help you if you're lying to me, because I don't like lies. My time is precious. I'm going to waste it with garbage. I'm not on the take. I don't sell out, and I believe in integrity.
Mr. Kaplan told us rather clearly that Channel 7 was going to make him a star. Evidently, since I didn't contribute to helping him become famous, the only other way for him to become famous was to call the whole thing a hoax.
I believe the Warrens are taking advantage of the public. They make their living from this field. Unlike Stephen, he made his living from teaching.
He was no parapsychologist. He had no doctorate. A lot of people out there have heard the Amityville Horror is a hoax. Why do you think that is? Because the atheists, they don't want anyone out there to believe for 1 second that a home like in Amityville could be haunted by diabolical forces, which it was. Their aim is to kill any belief that you have.
Dan William Weber, pengacara Ronald DeVille Jr., menjadi salah satu kritikus utama.
Because the house has never been haunted. It isn't haunted today. And a very successful commercial venture, and they pull the wool over the public's eyes.
Unless we get a spirit who actually shows up and explains it on camera, which I doubt is going to happen, we're not going to know. So we will keep pursuing the elusive thing, whatever that thing is.
For the believer, no evidence is necessary. For the atheist and the skeptic, no evidence is possible. That settles it right there. Devils do exist. Demons do exist. A skeptical public is the best protection that devils have.
Introduced this very special couple. They were the owners of that strange house in Amityville. Did you decide to go public?
Before we went public, some other people stepped in and did it for us, and there were very widely exaggerated stories in the press. In order to correct some of those things and be able to live with ourselves, we had to come forward and tell our story.
Tetapi keluarga Lutz bersikeras bahwa ceritanya itu adalah benar, dan mereka menegaskan bahwa mereka siap untuk melakukan tes poligraf. Selanjutnya, mereka pun melakukan tes poligraf yang dilakukan oleh salah satu ahli terbaik di Amerika, di mana itu dilakukan dengan proses yang panjang. Dan ternyata, hasilnya George dan Kathy lulus tes poligraf, yang berarti Hasil tes tersebut membuktikan bahwa mereka benar-benar mengalami kejadian sesuai yang mereka ceritakan.
There's no question in my mind that was their aim and their goal.
Why would Weber accuse us of concocting a hoax with him and then make us swear in a contract that he wanted us to sign that we would absolutely tell the truth and agree to take polygraph tests?
William Weber at no time intimated that the Amityville case was a hoax. He was not committed to parapsychology, but he told me more than once that he was fully convinced that the possession theory was the most likely. If he has said that he thought it was a fraud, well, he has his reasons for it. I don't know what they are, but it's not true.
I had the opportunity to look George in the eyes as he was talking about a lot of the experiences that happened to him and his family in Amityville.
He was having
when you
some
had that one-on-one
experiences
contact with somebody and you had the ability to look into their heart as they're talking about this and see how they're reacting and how they're responding to incidents. It was very real for George.
The family believes that they experienced something. To what extent, I don't think anybody will ever really know. But that story, the book, the movie, we're still talking about it, and we're 40 years later. So we really got to look at it as that it opened the door to a lot of people's fascinations with the paranormal.
Some people have called our testimony about Amityville a hoax. There is nothing I could show them. There would be new evidence that this is a truth. It is the truth that it's my testimony. And to judge another's testimony, not having experienced it, not having gone through it, or been touched by it, you don't have the right to.
It's the most documented event of its kind in terms of how many people were involved, how many people witnessed on their own or saw their own or have had their testimony unchanged for all these years.
Do I believe that they were in that house for 28 days? No. Categorically, undeniably, no.
I think that they had this whole thing planned, and they were going to write a book about it and make themselves a lot of money. And, you know, they did.
It affected Ronald DeFeo one way. It affected the Lutzes another way. It affects everybody that goes into that.
Pada tahun 1988, George dan Kathy bercerai, tetapi mereka masih berhubungan baik. Kemudian Kathy meninggal pada 17 Agustus 2004 akibat penyakit emfisema. Sejak ia mengidap penyakit ini, Kathy terlihat lebih tua dari usianya. Lalu George, ia meninggal pada 8 Mei 2006 di Las Vegas, Nevada di usia 59 tahun akibat penyakit jantung. Dan sementara itu, rumah Amityville masih berdiri kokoh dan telah direnovasi oleh para pemilik baru yang berganti-ganti. Tetapi rumah horor Amityville ini kini alamatnya telah diganti. Bagaimana menurut Sobat K semua? Silahkan berbagi pendapatnya secara bijak ke dalam kolom komentar. Dan berikut sejumlah referensi dalam dokumenter kisah nyata K Channel kali ini. Serta nantikan kisah nyata lainnya yang berbeda selanjutnya hanya di K Channel, membuka jendela dunia.